for joining the Pawanka Global Conversations with Young People in light of the commemoration of the International Day of the World's Indigenous People. This year's focus is on Indigenous youth as agents of change for self-determination. And we would like to ask for your permission to record this meeting. Pawanka Fund is a global Indigenous-led fund that was born out of the 2014 United Nations World Conference on Indigenous People, with the main aim really to support the channeling of funds to Indigenous people who are not receiving sufficient funds or their needs are not being addressed, and also to influence the way philanthropies approach the way Indigenous people are responding to their self-determined needs and agendas, and so to advance Indigenous intercultural philanthropy. So the aim of this conversation today is to highlight the different examples and experiences of Indigenous youth in the protection, in the conservation, and also advancement of their self-determined development within their communities. Our conversation shall start with welcoming remarks and also a video presentation, as well as the spiritual ceremony. This will be followed by a number of speakers, a guest speaker, and also youth representatives from our partners from Africa, Asia, North America, Latin America, and the Pacific, who will also speak on the experience, lived experience, and also experiences from the ground, and showcase youth as agents of change. After that, I'll open the floor for any comments or questions in between, and also have any final reflection from the speakers, address any questions that may have arose, and also have some concluding remarks. For those who are unable to join, we'll be able to share the session recording after the conclusion of this session. Now I'd like to request Juan to play the video of Pawanka Fund. Juan.
Thank you, Edna. Okay, so I will share this screen and please confirm if you can see it.
Yeah, we're seeing it.
Pawanka is a Mosquito word meaning to grow and strengthen. We are an Indigenous-led global fund. We have partnered with Indigenous organizations that focus on land revitalization processes in the Pacific and clearing of traditional farming areas to strengthen traditional food systems and agroecology. We have joined hands with Indigenous peoples who center their work on the rehabilitation of mangroves in Latin America to protect Indigenous communities from hurricanes, the reforestation of Indigenous territories, and the implementation of community gardens. In North America, we have partnered with organizations to revitalize, care, and protect traditional seed banks for the reforestation of ancestral species. In Africa and Asia, we have come together with Indigenous women who regenerate forests for the purpose of economic empowerment. The impact of our more than 400 initiatives on the environment is incalculable. We partner and complement the initiatives of Indigenous peoples who promote free and self-determined development, who apply their traditional and spiritual knowledge and practices. We promote reciprocity, a harmonious relationship with Mother Earth, intercultural dialogue, solidarity, and we are based on Indigenous principles. We are a space for exchange and the opportunity for the voices of Indigenous peoples to be heard. We articulate the global with the local. We promote the care of Mother Earth, and through partnerships with Indigenous organizations, we protect more than 37.5 million hectares of land and 72.8 million hectares of oceans. We promote a more equitable world by strengthening justice and peace processes and reimagining development, conservation, and the way we relate to Mother Earth.
Entonces, cuando hablamos de la cosmovisión de los pueblos indígenas, no es un elemento esotérico que queremos promover, no es una visión romántica de la vida la que queremos promover, sino que queremos decirles a nuestros hermanos, nuestras hermanas, al resto de la sociedad en nuestros países, que si volvemos a tomar en cuenta esas relaciones recíprocas que se basan en la cosmovisión indígena, podríamos enfrentar las crisis de alimentos, de cambio climático, etcétera, de una mejor manera, de una manera más humana.
Thank you, Juan, and happy Indigenous Peoples' Day to everyone and to the youth who've joined us. In solidarity, we are happy to have all of you here and hope it's a great day for everyone else. Now I'd like to welcome Luchi Maranan, who's Pawanka Fund Program Officer for Asia, to give some welcoming remarks. Luchi.
Okay, good evening, everyone. I'm saying hello from the Cordillera in the northern Philippines here in Asia. On behalf of Pawanka Fund, I welcome you all to this virtual gathering as we observe the 41st Declaration by the United Nations of August 9 as International Day of the World's Indigenous Peoples. We remember and we pay tribute to the indigenous leaders who decades ago trailblazed the path towards the recognition of indigenous peoples and their right to self-determination. The journey has been long and many lessons continue to be gained from challenges, but the advocacy is ever dynamic and inspiring, with actions and programs from the ground, from faraway communities up to the halls of the United Nations. The concerns of indigenous peoples need to be amplified and to be heard. With the changing times come more challenges as the planet faces climate crisis and various threats to indigenous territories and resources are real. While indigenous communities continue with their initiatives to save their land and resources with their traditional knowledge and practices, the indigenous youth are taking the central stage to assume responsibilities and leadership. Stewardship of the earth is not to be delayed. Stepping up to inherit the tasks from the elders is urgent and is happening. In a few minutes, we shall hear these brave new voices from the different social cultural regions around the globe as they take on the vital role of the new nurturers of indigenous wisdom and culture. Let us listen to them. It is their time to lead and take on the duty of being the custodians of ecosystems and rich bodies of knowledge and good practices. Let the new generation, the indigenous youth, show us the way with the guidance of ancestral wisdom and courage. Thank you.
Thank you, Luchi, for your welcoming remarks and also for your message that inspires the oncoming speakers and also give us hope. Thank you so much. We now have the traditional ceremony by Sonia as to Juan from Caoi, Peru, and I'd ask Juan to really share the video. Juan, you can go ahead.
Día Internacional de los Pueblos Indígenas. No hay nada que festejar. Tenemos que conmemorar como pueblos originarios, como pueblos ancestrales, que vivimos en armonía con el todo. Vamos a pedir permiso a nuestros seres tutelares, a nuestras deidades, a nuestra madre tierra. Seguracocha, Patayatachi, Taitainti, India, Taita Guaira, Taitanina, obra en espíritu de Mamayamu, espíritu Guaira, espíritu de Lina, espíritu de Pachamama, Pachamama, Madre Tierra, dadora de vida, fructificadora de alimentos, Madre Medicina, obra en espíritu de Mamayamu, que fluye en nuestros ríos, que fluye en nuestra sangre, que está en nuestras lágrimas, que está en el aliento. Oh gran espíritu, guainga mensajera, que nos une a los pueblos, de las naciones, de las reservas. Oh gran espíritu del fuego, que nos da ese poder de armonía, de un buen vivir. Espíritu de Mamachoca, sabia, que nos da la dulzura en las palabras. Espíritu de Mamasara, que tú nos sostienes en todos los tiempos, en todas las adversidades. Oh gran espíritu, Pacha, ay Pacha, Pacha, ay Pacha, espíritu de las cuatro direcciones, espíritus de nuestros ancestros. Hoy queremos honrar con tu memoria del gran saber, del buen vivir de los pueblos en armonía, en la dulzura de sus corazones, del entendimiento y en esa gobernanza colectiva, en ese bonito vivir. Hoy queremos decir, pues surgimos con más fuerza y resistencia ante tantas adversidades, ante tantas violencias. Somos pueblos vivos, con espíritu, con pensamientos propios, con sentimientos recíprocos, solidarios. Honramos a nuestros ancestros y a nuestros pueblos en sus lindas naciones, en sus lindas reservas, en su gran saber y hacer, o nuestra juventud, en su gran sabiduría del futuro. Somos de la cultura de nuestra madre tierra, de nuestros ríos, de nuestros bosques, de nuestros biomas, de nuestra biodiversidad, de nuestras biosferas, de todos nuestros ecosistemas, porque nosotros vivimos. La madre tierra es nuestra casa y honramos, criamos y cuidamos todas nuestras semillas. Hoy queremos decirles desde aquí que seguimos mucho más fuertes, resilientes, y nuestras mujeres en su buen saber, en su buen hacer. Seguimos en esta misión, en esta gran labor. Hoy decimos los pueblos, somos pueblos vivos, pueblos con vida, con sentir, y vivimos en armonía con el todo. Si no escuchamos a los pueblos, el gran saber de nuestros ancestros, la humanidad tendrá que extinguirse. Por un buen vivir, por una vida en armonía, por una vida respirando el aliento del día. Hoy decimos gracias al gran espíritu, gracias a la sabiduría de los pueblos que van a poder afrontar toda la crisis que se está dando del cambio climático, del agua y de la humanidad propia. Surpai, Surpai, pueblos ancestrales, Surpai.
Thank you, Seranyo Sonia. We now have also a video message from the President of the United Nations Permanent Forum on Indigenous Issues, Dario Mejia Montalvo.
Un saludo fraternal a las hermanas y hermanos indígenas y en especial a los jóvenes indígenas, así como a todos los asistentes que nos acompañan de las diferentes regiones del mundo. En los últimos años hemos observado cómo las voces y los aportes de los jóvenes indígenas se han amplificado en los diferentes escenarios desde lo local a lo global. Cada vez más, sus esfuerzos de coordinación aumentan y con ello sus perspectivas se van posicionando en las diferentes agendas políticas, especialmente respecto de la necesidad de preservar la cultura, la lengua y conocimiento de sus respectivos pueblos indígenas. Sin embargo, también observamos que al mismo tiempo ellos están expuestos a mayores riesgos y continúan enfrentando racismo, discriminación, criminalización, persecución injusta, discursos de odio y siguen siendo excluidos de los espacios de toma de decisiones. Fenómenos como el desplazamiento forzado, la movilidad o migración por distintas causas hacia áreas urbanas y a otros países, el reclutamiento, los desastres provocados por emergencias climáticas, la falta de educación pertinente o de oportunidades laborales afectan en gran proporción a la juventud indígena, lo cual les deja separados y desprotegidos de la sabiduría de sus ancianos y territorios, siendo esta una verdadera tragedia invisible que aumenta diariamente. Ahora es el momento para que los gobiernos asuman la responsabilidad de acelerar las acciones para proteger a los pueblos indígenas, tomando en cuenta la voz de los jóvenes indígenas, quienes están impulsando soluciones claves en las actuales condiciones críticas de la vida humana en el planeta. Los jóvenes indígenas no pueden ser vistos como segmentos poblacionales independientes de sus pueblos, pero sí reconocerles un lugar especial, pues son ellos quienes están actuando y quienes además tienen la mayor carga de expectativas en el tiempo sobre el destino de sus pueblos. También están tomando la delantera frente a los retos globales, pero territorializados. Los jóvenes indígenas fueron clave en medio de la pandemia a través de sus roles como guardianes, agentes de cambio, sus innovaciones, conocimientos y tecnologías. Frente al cambio climático, muchos jóvenes indígenas son quienes están liderando procesos para la justicia social desde sus bases hasta los niveles de políticas y movilizaciones globales. Por eso, conmemoro este Día Internacional de los Pueblos Indígenas y que además esté dedicado a los jóvenes indígenas, ya que reivindica la posición que ellos deben ocupar en la toma de decisiones, tanto en el nivel territorial, nacional, como internacional, a la vez que se les reconoce sus comprometidos esfuerzos por la acción y la búsqueda de justicia. El Foro Permanente para las Cuestiones Indígenas reconoce el papel crucial de los jóvenes indígenas. Por eso, decidimos que el tema prioritario de la sesión del próximo año sea mejorar el derecho de los pueblos indígenas a la libre determinación en el contexto de la Declaración de las Naciones Unidas sobre los Derechos de los Pueblos Indígenas, resaltando las voces de la juventud indígena. Espero que durante este periodo surjan muchas más iniciativas y se fortalezcan aún más sus liderazgos. Esperamos con ansias dar la bienvenida a muchos jóvenes indígenas de todo el mundo en la próxima sesión, lo cual les permita compartir experiencias, denunciar, presentar propuestas y fortalecer o construir redes de apoyo mutuo a los pueblos indígenas. Muchos éxitos. Muchas gracias. Muy amable.
Yeah, thank you for that message. Indigenous youth are not only the agents of change for the present, but also for the future. And we know from the experiences we've had with our partners and the work they do and the interactions we've had with Indigenous youth at different levels. With the partnerships, we have the partners from Africa, Asia, Latin America, North America, and the Pacific. Youth have amassed experiences within their communities trying to respond to weather, climate change, work around supporting the conservation of their biodiversity and ecosystems that they depend on, and also calling for the self-determination and the recognition of the rights of their peoples. We have a number of youth today lined up, and they're going to share the experiences and the work that they do within the different areas they work in, and they have unique experiences from the different ecosystems they work in, from the mountain ecosystems, those from the drylands in Africa. I hope you can hear me well.
Yes, Edna, we can hear
Yeah.
you.
Apologies, I lost you all for a minute. Apologies. We live in the ecosystems with different connectivity challenges. So with that, I'd like to invite the youth representative. We'd start with Africa. We have Martha Olemisiko Sengelwan from the Engaruka Community Initiative Organization in Tanzania. Martha, regarding ENCO, we know ENCO runs Engaruka School, which also serves as a center for Indigenous children and youth to engage in environmental protection and intergenerational transfer of knowledge. Would like for you to share with us the work you do around the transfer of intergenerational knowledge, and also work around supporting the youth to engage with elders, really to highlight the work they do and also to transfer this knowledge. Could you elaborate on for us the work that you do as ENCO and also the impact it's having within the community? Martha, you have the floor.
My name is Martha Mereso Singirwan. I'm Executive Director for Engaruka Community Initiative Organization, ENCO. This is an indigenous organization based in Tanzania. But I also manage an Engaruka English Medium School, a charity school based in our village, Engaruka. This school is a center for youth and indigenous children, where formal education is being given, but a safe home for these children. Through our school, we have been an agent of environmental protection. This is through plantation or establishment of nursery tree gardens, where the students are being involved in the plantation of or in the maintenance of nursery tree gardens at the school, and these seedlings are being distributed to the community members so that they can plant these trees in the environment and in the water sources, so that we can fight against the climate change effects. But the school has been also a center for trainings on how to run vegetable gardens, kitchen gardens, and so forth. So since the school has a reliable water source, we have been planting different vegetables for the school and for the community, but giving a knowledge to these communities on how to implement these activities. But through the school, we have environmental club, where we have a number of students who go around the community and to the neighboring schools to advocate about environmental protection. And this has been a good ambassadors to our community on the importance of protecting the environment. But the school has been a center for traditional knowledge transfer. We have been running different sessions on traditional knowledge. We have been bringing a number of traditional leaders and traditional elders who are very skilled, and they come and give us different lessons on traditional knowledge. And this includes the traditional healing. We have good specialists on healing of different diseases, for instance, skin cancer, and some other, some other illness. And we have been recording these events, and we will eventually distribute these videos to the community. But these elders also give the student the stories, very meaningful stories, but read those and train the student on traditional games as part of refreshing, and so forth. But the school has been also a way of transferring the knowledge, since we have a traditional livestock home where our children go and practice how to take care of the livestock, like milking the cows and the sheep and the goat, but also treating the livestock. The boys are involved in treating the livestock, but slaughtering the livestock, and so many other practices. This is a way of maintaining these skills so that our children do not forget their traditions. But we also have a traditional, like a cultural day each term. The children get involved in different cultural practices and showcase different activities that are being implemented at home. And in this way, we assure that the tradition, the knowledge will be transferred to different generations, since education is an endless project and service. So personally, I'm very grateful and honored to be part of this International Day for Indigenous People. And we are grateful for Pawanka for considering ENCO to be part of this. And we're so grateful, and thank you so much.
I'd like now to invite our next speaker, who's Maria Jose Fernandez Power from Rapa Nui Municipality. She's the Waste Management Advisor. And with Rapa Nui, what are the young people doing in Rapa Nui to preserve their cultural heritage and land in relation to climate change? We know Rapa Nui is an island, and so we'd love to hear your perspectives on this. So Maria Jose Fernandez.
Hola, ¿me escuchan?
Sí.
¿Aló?
Yeah, sí.
¿Sí?
Sí.
Perfecto.
Sí.
Muy bien. Hola, muchas gracias por la invitación y orana corúa toda. Mi nombre es María José Fernández Paoa. Soy una joven perteneciente al pueblo Rapa Nui, que se ubica en una isla muy pequeña en medio del Océano Pacífico. Esta isla es la isla habitada más alejada en el planeta. Estamos aislados. Pertenece a Chile y nos encontramos muy lejos de su costa, a 3.400 kilómetros y a 4.000 kilómetros desde Tahití. Somos uno de los vértices del Triángulo de la Polinesia. Históricamente, el pueblo Rapa Nui ha sido un pueblo resiliente, ha vivido muchos procesos de cambios políticos, sociales y medioambientales a lo largo de su historia, que han sido muy difíciles, y ha logrado sobrevivir. Y esto nos da cuenta de cómo la cosmovisión de un pueblo indígena se relaciona de alguna manera con la preservación de su entorno, de su cultura y de su gente. Nuestra cultura hoy en día está más viva que nunca, y no solo con los jóvenes, sino con la comunidad completa. Pero en cuanto a los jóvenes de Rapa Nui, existe una profunda conexión con nuestras tradiciones, un interés por conocerla, aprender y transmitirla. Todas estas tradiciones son expresadas a través de cantos, de la danza Rapa Nui, de leyendas, de deportes ancestrales, y son prácticas que se realizan en el día a día y son muy frecuentes, y nos enorgullece que sea así. Pero todas estas disciplinas confluyen en un solo punto, que es la lengua Rapa Nui, nuestro idioma. Nuestra lengua es el vehículo principal y fundamental para todos estos saberes y valores ancestrales que han sido transmitidos a lo largo de muchas generaciones que han vivido en Rapa Nui. Y el vestigio principal es el moai. El moai es esta estatua de piedra que es muy conocida por nosotros. El moai es el rostro de nuestros antepasados, y en la actualidad tenemos miedo porque estamos viendo cómo este legado, que es único en el mundo, está en riesgo debido a los efectos negativos que está generando el cambio climático en nuestro planeta. No conseguiremos la subsistencia ni de nuestra isla, ni de nuestra cultura, ni de nuestra gente si no logramos frenar los impactos que está generando el cambio climático. No lo vamos a lograr si no frenamos la erosión que vive en nuestras tierras, tampoco si no logramos controlar la contaminación que desde todo el planeta llega hacia las costas de Rapa Nui. De hecho, existen mediciones de que los desechos que llegan a las costas de Rapa Nui son 50 veces más que en el resto de la costa chilena. Cada vez que yo como joven voy a la costa a recoger residuos costeros, me invade un sentimiento de injusticia, porque estamos viviendo los desechos de grandes industrias del resto del planeta que llegan a este pequeño rincón. No es de nosotros y aún así debemos hacernos cargo. Pero este sentimiento de injusticia, que no solo lo vivo yo, lo vivimos muchos jóvenes Rapa Nui, lo transformamos en un incentivo, en una movilización para poder tomar acciones y generar cambios que permitan mitigar el cambio climático. Dentro de todo esto, el centro de todo esto es el respeto, el moa en la lengua Rapa Nui, por todo lo que nos rodea, por nuestro entorno y otras formas de vida. En la cosmovisión del pueblo Rapa Nui existen principios valóricos que conectan al ser humano con su territorio y determinan su relación con todo lo que lo rodea: el mar, la tierra, el cielo, otros humanos, su ecosistema en general. Y por eso, como jóvenes, nos organizamos periódicamente para acciones como, por ejemplo, limpiezas costeras, en donde podemos estar muchas horas y recolectar una gran cantidad de toneladas de plástico que al día siguiente vuelven a aparecer en nuestras costas, siendo una tarea interminable. O del mismo modo, para poder recuperar nuestros suelos y nuestra tierra que está muy dañada por la erosión, organizamos plantaciones masivas donde participa toda la comunidad, plantando miles de árboles para poder recuperar este suelo. Porque como ya les conté, nuestra isla es muy pequeña, no alcanza a superar los 200 kilómetros cuadrados, y por lo tanto comprenderán que si seguimos dejando que la erosión avance, o si el nivel del mar continúa aumentando debido al incremento de la temperatura del planeta, nuestra isla será cada vez más pequeña. Y luego ya no tendremos a dónde ir. Y nuestro legado, que es único, corre el riesgo de desaparecer. Es por eso que mitigar los efectos del cambio climático en islas pequeñas como la nuestra es un tema que hoy es la supervivencia para el mañana. Pero además de nuestro ecosistema en general, otro de nuestros grandes tesoros es nuestro patrimonio cultural, material e inmaterial. Desde muy pequeña me involucré en el área cultural, me he desarrollado muchos años en ella y hoy pertenezco a la agrupación cultural que se llama Manama Oji. junto a ella estamos actualmente de gira por el continente europeo y hoy me encuentro en Francia junto a muchos jóvenes líderes Rapa Nui que son muy talentosos, buscando difundir nuestra cultura, dando a conocer la historia del Moai y el profundo significado que tiene para el pueblo Rapa Nui. De todos los testimonios tangibles, la imagen más única de lo que significa ser Rapa Nui es el Moai. Es un testimonio de vida, es un testimonio de respeto y de adoración a nuestro origen. Pero al mismo tiempo, el Moai también es un testimonio de lecciones que podemos aprender de las personas que estuvieron antes que nosotros, que también vivieron crisis climáticas y también vivieron crisis humanitarias y lograron sobrevivir gracias a esta sabiduría que se funda en los valores de la cosmovisión Rapa Nui, que son el respeto, moa, la colaboración mutua, el humana y la familia. Nosotros como jóvenes hoy en día estamos llamados a ser la generación que recurra a esta sabiduría para poder encontrar la respuesta y garantizar el buen vivir de nuestra gente y de nuestro pequeño pedazo de tierra en este planeta. Somos una cultura que construye su futuro siempre honrando a sus ancestros y continuando su legado. Así que bueno, hay muchas iniciativas que en general no solo involucran a los jóvenes, existen muchos programas y en general tenemos una generación de jóvenes mucho más conscientes con el tema medioambiental y preocupados al respecto, intentando mejorar las cosas. Así que más que nada, queremos mantenernos vivos, mantener viva la cultura Rapa Nui, cuidar nuestra tierra y cuidar el planeta en general. Muchas gracias. Maururu.
Renewal. Thank you, Maria Jose, for sharing and highlighting really how Rapa Nui youth are organizing to make change. I'm from the drylands and I see you're from the island. I don't know your realities, but I can see some similarities in terms of the challenge faced by Indigenous youth and also the climate resilience issues around it. And also appreciate that you are able to share despite being on an exchange visit. Thank you. And in case of any questions, please, the audience, our partners, you could share any comments or any questions you have or any follow-up with the speakers, and we'll be able to come back to them to address it. So thank you, Maria Jose. So moving on from the far islands, from the corners of Polynesia to Asia now, the other farthest end, would love to invite Asia Indigenous Youth Network, IPIN, Funai Clever, to also share the perspectives, being Asia being one of the regions with largest population, not only for the peoples, but also the youth. We've seen Indigenous youth are really organizing as a movement really to call for their self-determined development. What role are really Indigenous youth playing in this self-determined movements and advocacy space, calling for the recognition of their rights? And what are some of the challenges that the youth are currently facing within Asia? So Funai, Clever.
Hello. Sorry for the background, it's quite noisy. Hello, I am Funai Clever from Asia Young Indigenous Peoples Network. I come from the Philippines, from Cordillera, where the attacks on the indigenous people are relentless, as with all indigenous communities all around Asia and also the world. As an indigenous youth myself, I have witnessed the importance of organizing and mobilizing the youth for the defense of ancestral land and for the struggle for the right to self-determination. The youth hold the future. They are the second liners who will continue the long fight for justice, and they will inherit their community's history of resistance and build it to be stronger than before. In a world where society and technology is rapidly developing, the youth have the capability to juggle it all. So traditions come and go, depending on the circumstances of a community. And the indigenous youth hold the challenge of adapting to the demands of time while also persevering or preserving their indigenous knowledge and practices. So with attacks such as development aggression and extractive industries destroying lands, as well as harassment from our own government, the indigenous youth are the first-hand witnesses to the injustices upon them. However, I know from my own experience that these attacks will always fail to diminish the strong spirit that we, the youth, are known for. As the indigenous youth have learned from their history, it has always been that the indigenous people do not stand alone, but as a collective, regionally, nationally, as well as internationally. The legacy of the indigenous people are in the hands of their youth. It is a challenge, but also a role that only the youth can take for them to also pass down to their next generation. So that is all from me. Happy International Day for World Indigenous People to everyone.
Thank you, Fanai, and thank you for sharing the brief, but also really highlighting the challenge with the indigenous movement in Asia and also the youth while fighting for their self-determined development. I'd now like to request the representative from Asia, Latin America now, Eugenia Figueroa from the Cola People Association, Juventud Indígena, Argentina. If you could share the role of the youth in conservation of environment using their culture and really the contribution this has within the community and really basically in the conservation of resources. Eugenia? We have Eugenia, can you hear us? So if Eugenia not yet on board, would love to request from Eurasia, we have our partner from the initiative group, Suchular, the Waterers. We have Ibex Samkov, also in partnership with the IGN Cultural Research Center, who have an initiative of restoring the mountain ecosystems and especially focusing on water. If you could share with us how indigenous youth living in the mountain and coastal ecosystem have been involved really in the collection and documentation of local climate change indicators from observed and lived experiences, but also how this documentation as well is helping communities to build resilience. Ibec, you have to go.
Thank you very much for giving me the floor. And first of all, I'd like to thank Pawanka for putting together such an important event and for highlighting the and foregrounding the role of indigenous youth. I think it is very timely and very important. So my name is Ibex Samakov, and I am okay. Am I mute? Can you hear me? Because I got a text saying that
you're okay. We can hear you.
Okay, good. Okay, perfect. So yeah, my name is Ibex Samakov, and I'm a member of the initiative group called Suchular, the Waterers, and we have been supported by the IGN Cultural Research Center that has done an amazing job in Kyrgyzstan on documenting traditional ecological knowledge and sacred sites. The reason we started looking into the local and indigenous indicators of climate change is because if you look at the decision making which is related to climate change, a lot of it is based on the models, on climate change models that have been developed elsewhere, primarily in the West by scholars and scientists. And those climate change scenarios are used to predict different scenarios, right? What will happen to certain countries or to certain regions if the temperature rises by that much or temperature rises by this much. And the central and local governments have been using those or have been trying to use those scenarios and those findings to inform their decision making. First of all, it is a very good thing that they are trying to use the evidence-based approach to decision making, and we were not saying that those climate change models and climate change scenarios are wrong or anything, but one thing that we've noticed was that these climate change scenarios and climate change models mostly disregard traditional ecological knowledge and local indicators of climate change. And in order to show to the decision makers that maybe this indicator of climate change is more important for local people's livelihoods or for local people's safeguarding of their cultural heritage, we've designed this small ethnographic study where we went around Issyk-Kul Lake, which is the second largest high altitude lake in the world. And we've collected and we've documented the traditional knowledge related to climate and with a specific focus on local and indigenous indicators of climate change. And that research has shown that indeed local communities have much more intricate a set of indicators than the conventional climate change models usually take into account. So besides the changes in temperature, let's say changes in precipitation, the local communities also highlighted the changes in the vegetation. They've pointed out that some types or some species of grass which used to grow very well, they're not growing that well anymore, and there are other species of grass, for example, that didn't grow at all started growing. They've also pointed out some interesting indicators such as changes in the direction and strength of the wind, the changes in the direction and strength of the waves, as well as the direction, as well as the changes in the behavior of domestic livestock and wild species. For example, they've observed that the usual season of mating has shifted. And it is one of the indicators of climate change, and the conventional models of climate change, they do not usually take this into account. Another very important issue that local communities pointed out was that they've said that climate change is not a purely environmental issue, it is an environmental and cultural issue. So it was interesting to know that local communities have been linking the cultural change or the social change to the environmental change as well. And that was demonstrated with the example of sacred sites. And what we were told was that back in the day, our ancestors used to be very respectful and very caring towards sacred sites. However, currently, the more and more people start forgetting about sacred sites. They start neglecting sacred sites. They don't care about sacred sites. And in the views of local communities, this social change, this change of local people's attitude towards their environments, this loss of traditional knowledge, loss of values, is very much part of the climate change that we are having at the moment. And this is one of the main messages that we would try to communicate, that from the local people's perspective, social change and environmental change are interlinked. And when we talk about climate change, we cannot and we should not leave the people out. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ibek, for highlighting the important role of have societal values for building resilience, but also how the degradation of these such values as well impacts our communities and also the loss of knowledge being transferred. And I like that you say social change is linked to climate change, and it's important to show the nature and human are not, are not inseparable. And thank you so much for highlighting that and sharing your experience from Kyrgyzstan. We appreciate it. And now I'd like to ask if anyone, I see a number of partners with interesting experiences from Africa, from Asia, from Latin America, from the Pacific, from Eurasia. If anyone has any experience and can jump in and share a few insights or experiences from your community before we go to concluding remarks, or if you have any comments. Do you have any comments from the floor? I see partners from Kenya, for instance, from the coastal community who are doing interesting work around restoring the mangrove ecosystem. From Namibia, working on language revitalization. Do we have any comments from the floor? If not, I'd love now to invite Khadija Juma. We'd love to give a comment. No, from Sevlamu. Khadija?
Yes, Edna.
Yeah, you can go ahead and share a bit of your experience. At least you have like 3 minutes. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much, Edna. First of all, I'd just like to share my screen so that you can see what we are doing as Save Lamu organization based in Lamu, in Kenya, Lamu County. Edna. Edna, I'm having challenges in sharing my screen.
Maybe you can, if it's challenge, you can just speak and share the experience.
Okay. Thank you very much. My name is Khadija Juma from Save Lamu organization based in Kenya, Lamu County. And I'm just going to give you a brief of what we are doing in Save Lamu. First of all, before I start, Save Lamu is a growing coalition of over 40 local organizations. It's an umbrella organization in Lamu County, which have several wings, which has different organizations working under it. That includes youth organization, women organization, and indigenous organizations as well. So mainly our work is engaging with the community and stakeholders in decision making, promoting sustainable and responsible development, and above all is preserving our environmental, social, and cultural integrity of Lamu County. And Lamu County is a region which is rich in so many things in terms of cultural diversity, and it consists of several islands which is surrounded by rich biodiversity that includes so many things, including coral reefs, seagrasses, mangrove forests, endangered sea turtles, among many other things, which we pride ourselves in Lamu as one of the natural resources which we have in our region. And I'm just going to state on some of the importance of mangroves in our community, because we have the LAPSET project which came to Lamu, and it destroyed a lot of mangroves at the As a result of that, we as an organization, we have been doing a lot of mangrove restoration, so that we can restore the mangroves, which is one of our identity here in Lamu County. Because as you can see, mangroves are carbon-rich ecosystems that make up to 75% of forest cover. And in Lamu, we pride ourselves. We are one of the leading counties in Kenya, which has the largest mangrove cover, the largest mangrove cover and forest cover large. So we have been doing a lot of things in the community, and one of them is to provide nursery grounds for marine species so that we can restore the mangroves that have been destroyed with the LAPSET project. Above all that, all of these things that we are doing, we have support different groups in Lamu County that includes in different wards by supporting them to establish mangrove nurseries. All this was to help community to earn a living, and at the same time to restore the mangrove and also protect our environment at large. Other things which we do, we have engaged in so many mangrove restoration programs. We go to the ground, to the community living at the ground, the grassroots levels. We do mangrove restoration programs. We include both women and youths, and also the elderly as well. And we have planted over 50,000 mangroves, different species of mangroves since before 2018. And it has been our motive to attain the goal at least to restore the mangroves, which was destroyed by the LAPSET project. Again, some of the things that we usually do other than doing restoring, we also do cleanup activities around the affected areas, whereby we do cleanup, we engage the communities, we collect all the plastics and do away with them, because as we are fighting to get back our mangroves, we also encourage the community not to throw dust, not to throw plastics on the mangroves, because it might kill the mangroves. So it has been something which we have been working on as Save Lamu to make sure that we restore the mangrove completely. All these things, we do it also in partnership with Kenya Forest Association, also with National Environmental Management Authority in Kenya, and also we have partnered again with the Lamu County government, with the Department of Fisheries and Climate Change. All this, as you can see, it's revolving around in preserving our environment, but also in terms of climate change awareness. We created awareness on the importance of mangroves, and we brought different stakeholders in our meetings so that we bring heads together. All this was to come up again because there is a forest plan of 2022 to influence county to plan for forest policy, though it is still on draft, but that meeting helped us a lot to identify some of the gaps which we have to bring them together, at least to have one voice at the end of the day. Other things that we've been working on, we always have World Environment Day on every 5th, and this opportunity, we usually take it, and we don't take it lightly because it's one of the important things to us. So we usually plant mangroves with different communities from different parts of Lamu County, and all our agenda goes to one place, that we want to preserve our environment and nurture our mangroves, not only for us, but also for the future generations. And apart from mangrove plantation alone, we also do beekeeping. We engage with communities from different parts of Lamu County to do in beekeeping and in mangrove restoration. So as we are restoring mangroves, again, we are also having as like a side hustle for the communities to engage in beekeeping businesses. All this is also a part of mangrove restoration. So we have engaged with Lamu communities from different places and established a beekeeping business in mangrove restoration. Another thing that we do again is also trying to have conversations with the members of county assembly. The members of the county assemblies are responsible in passing bills. So if we have any issues, we just reach out to them, and we have tried to create a good rapport with them, because to make our work easier in terms of passing the policies, which is still on draft. Yeah, and I'm just going to conclude with some of the challenges that we usually face in Lamu County. Like, as you can see, in terms of climate change crisis, since there is change in weather, it becomes an issue sometimes, because the weather becomes unpredictable. Sometimes, like we have to take up the nurseries to go and plant them to the designated places. But due to the change in weather, it becomes a little bit tricky. But all in all, the fight is still on, because we want just to make it better, not forgetting the ocean currents, which is becoming an issue. And then again, we have another issue in Lamu, which is security factor. As you can see, as the Lamu County itself has been facing a lot of challenges in terms of security, and that due to that security factor, it's kind of limiting us in doing some things, because you can't reach to at far different places due to security issues. But we are really trying on that, and I think for that I'm done with my presentation.
Asante. Thank you, Hadija, for highlighting the work of Save Lamu, but also the important area, since you work in Lamu and it's a World Cultural Heritage Site recognized by UNESCO, but also it's a community that is facing challenges with climate change, but also challenges with extremism. However, the work that you do around restoring the mangrove ecosystem is really crucial, and linking that to livelihood. And that's important in terms of supporting change. That's also building on people's empowerment and also agency in the community, and the work around youth mobilizing to lead these changes. Asante sana. So I do not see any question, rather comments, but at this juncture, I'd like to thank all our speakers who've shared a lot. And I know with the work the youth do in the diverse ecosystem, it's unique, and also creative ways that you're responding to the changes and also supporting your communities whilst also learning. So I'd love to invite our program director, Carla Bush, to also share her concluding remarks from these discussions. Carla, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Edna, and thanks to all the youth who have participated in this first session of the day in celebration of the Indigenous Peoples Day. I would like to begin by just making a recap of what we have heard this morning. We begin with the facilitator, Edna, giving us a brief description of Pawanka's work. And then we had our colleague, Luci, who gave us a beautiful poetic introduction of what it means to be an Indigenous people, and most importantly, highlighting the role of the Indigenous people, our ancestor, how they paved the road for us, and to highlight the work that they have done and where we are today because of that. That was really beautifully amplified and said by Luci. I also would like to recognize Sonia, who connected us with the spirituality of our ancestor, respecting and acknowledging their presence and their permission to guide us through this conversation today, which has been absolutely a success. And I would like to thank Sonia for those brilliant words and thoughts that she brought us, reminding us that we are nothing without remembering our past and the work that they have brought for us. Then we went directly into the message from Dario, who also remind us that it's important, the importance of preserving the culture of Indigenous people and how that is brought more and more into the global scenario agenda. obviously he highlighted the challenges that we're facing, especially around discrimination, the racism that we have, that Indigenous people are facing on a day-to-day basis to do their work, but also bringing us that strength that we need to continue to do it because the future depends on us. And in that, he also highlighted that the most important thing is to continue to bring the Indigenous voices, the Indigenous leaders in the decision-making power at global level. And that for this, he recognized that the next permanent forum on Indigenous people would be raised, and the topic would be highlighted from an Indigenous perspective. We applaud that, and we also welcome that very much. On the other hand, then we began with the conversation of learning more about what our youth work has been around their contribution in safeguarding the self-determination of Indigenous people. And we began our work, our conversation with Marta, who Marta highlighted the role of the ENCO in terms of integrating traditional knowledge into the school learning and how they transmit that, and obviously the impact, the positive impact that has bring into the work of the Indigenous youth. And so we really appreciate that. And then Maria Jose Fernandez, from far away, she shared with us the role that their young people been doing in Rapa Nui and the importance of preserving their cultural heritage and the relationship of that with the land, and obviously in protection of the climate change. For them, language is the vehicle and the center for the Moa, as they call it. And for them, the Moa is the respect that we have towards our ancestors and how we transmit that vehicle towards the future generation. Thank you very much, Marta. And without that, there won't be for them as well-being when vivir the safeguarding of the Indigenous people from Rapa Nui. Then we heard from Funa Clever, who also shared her experience around the defense of their territory, highlighting obviously the challenges that has been and to safeguard their self-determination. And then we heard from Abek, who also shared his experience from the youth around the mountains and the coastal ecosystem. His words that take us along, all of us, that we bring along when we leave this session would be that social change and environmental link are interlinked between each other and that we cannot separate it. It's part of the ecosystem. We can't separate one thing to the, it all interlinked and it's all connected. So that was brilliant, Abby. Thanks for reminding us that. And then we heard from Kaija Juma, who spoke from Kenya, who also shared their work around the protection and of the mangroves and marine ecosystem, highlighting obviously the impact of the work that they have done around the reforestation on the forest and the importance to restore this for their self-determination. And on behalf of Pawanka Guiding Committee members and our chair, Dr. Amirna Cunningham, I just want to say thank you all for making this a success. Thank you all for the time that you have spent here and sharing, preparing this and being here with us. We really, really appreciate it. And we thank you. Every time we meet you, we go back as Pawanka with a lot of learning and a lot of inspiration to continue our work in support of your work. Thank you so very much. I pass it back on to Edna.
Thank you, Carla, for summing up the event well and also for giving your insights. I'd like to inform all the partners as well. We have a similar event at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 8 p.m. EST, and we'll have a number of speakers from also North America, Latin America, and Mexico, who will also share on the different experiences that they have from the Yakanal, USA, from the Land of Snow Leopard Network, who are also working with an interesting initiative in Eurasia, and also we have also from Rapa Nui, who will also share on the work around Indigenous young people working on respect of biodiversity and territorial management. We have from Asia Indigenous Peoples Pact, as well as from Colombia. So we have interesting Indigenous partners and youth engagement from the different regions as well, who are going to share. So we have a diverse of partners at 8 p.m. EST, and we invite you to join if your time allows. I know we are in different parts of the globe, but if you're able to join. However, the sessions will be recorded and the links will be shared. So I'd love to thank all of you, unless we have any final comments from Oscar. However, we would love to appreciate you taking time to join this session and also getting your feedback. And we appreciate also the work that you do in advancing and supporting Indigenous youth, and also in this agency that they are taking as the present and the future generations. So thank you all for joining this session, and hope to see some of you in the next one. So bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Carla. Good to see you.
It's a pleasure as always. Thank you.
Thank you, Minnie.
Thanks for being here, my dear.
Bye.
Very much.
Goodbye, good night.
Bye,
Bye.
everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
The second topic of my presentation, promote Indigenous peoples' leadership, how nutrition and planetary health can be summarized as well. Let's talk about 4 P.